Assalamualaikum and greetings to everybody. I'm Zakri from the Malaysian Employers Federation. I'm the General Manager of Strategic Services, and I welcome all of you to our second free webinar, free MEF webinar, and this time it is on Occupational Safety and Health Amendments Act 2022. We have with us the Senior Manager of the membership, Puan Hajah Haslina binti Ismail, and also our in-house expert on OSH matters, Tuan Haji Anis Fahmy, who will share their expertise with you today. So without further ado, I invite Hajah to brief us a little bit about MEF so that you learn more about us and perhaps join us in future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Encik Zakri. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat petang dan salam Hari Rabu. So, in fact, today I will be the first speaker for this free webinar in which I will go through with you the overview of MEF. What are the roles played, the functions, and the services that we provide to particularly our members and the employers at large. Yeah. For those of you who are online and you are already members, please treat this session as like it is like a revision for which I know that some of you only use MEF services perhaps when you have problems. You try to contact our consultants and whatnot. Tapi today I'm going to explain to you the entire spectrum of our role, functions, and services so that you will be clear and please make full use of the services that we provide to all our members. Yeah. All right. Now I will go through with you some. I have about 35 slides like that, but it will be. I will try to cut short in which. My slot is given about 45 minutes like that. Maybe it will be lesser than that. Yeah. Okay. Now, so for those of you who are online, perhaps you've heard of MEF many times because frequently we appear in the mass media. Yeah. So MEF is the point of reference for the views of employers in the country. So let's say if even the Ministry of Human Resources, even like the media, if they want to get the views or the opinions of employers on certain issues, MEF will be approached. Yeah, and we also take proactive measures in which we also give our views upfront if let's say there are any like pressing issues, yeah, in which we give our press statements and it will be carried out by the mass media impromptu. Yeah. Okay. Now, so I believe that you have seen many incidences that MEF react and proact on many issues pertaining to employers' interests. Okay. Even it came out in Chinese newspapers, podcasts, print media, electronic media, and so on. Yeah. Right now. And then, okay, let's see. Okay, now, those of you who are not members, probably you would be asking, what does MEF do? In which, okay, now you have a situation where you are facing a problem. Say, for example, as an HR practitioner, you have maybe like a disciplinary problem faced by your employee, any particular employee for that matter. And then before you take action, or maybe that employee, you have taken action against that employee, and that employee, say, for example, he ran to the labor office to make report against the employer, you know. So for you being the HR practitioner, so what is your stand? Okay, maybe your boss said that I do not want to see that person tomorrow, you know. So as an HR practitioner, what action should you be taking? Okay, whether the action you are considering to take will follow the employment laws, yeah, the regulations, because whatever action you take, it must follow in line with Malaysian employment laws, yeah. Okay, so this is the fact on the MEF part where we have a pool of IR, in particular in industrial relations, yeah. I will use the abbreviation IR later on in industrial relations, not in senior, is IR, industrial relations. They are, in fact, the professionals in the employment laws, yeah, and they are sometimes being the HR personnel of any organization, and for IR they have the kelebihan. Kelebihan is they know the laws, the employment laws, and so in MEF, we have a pool of expertise, those people who are experienced and experts in the employment laws, and we will provide guidance, services in which for you to contact us. We will coach you, we will guide you, and later on I will show you in our coming slides what are the roles of our IR consultants and what would be the benefits that you will gain when you become our member. Okay, let me just go through with you for the next slide. Okay, before that, you've heard of MEF before, but what is it, MEF? What is MEF actually? The word is employers. Sometimes when you say MEF, they say MBF. No, it's not MBF. Malaysian employees, no, we are Malaysian employers, majikan. So we are the central organization of private sector employers. We get recognition in Malaysia, which is at the national level, regional, which is the peringkat ASEAN and the Asia Pacific, and at the international levels. Okay. And for the milestone of MEF, kita bukanlah muda lagi. May 1959 we established MEF. By then the name was Federation of Malaya Industrial and Commercial Employers Consultative Association. Very mouthful lah. Okay, so as time goes by, in 1977, in fact, we changed the name to Malaysian Employers Federation, and up till now, we are still using the brand name of Malaysian Employers Federation. Yeah, okay, that's the milestone of MEF. And for MEF, currently, we're Zakri, myself, and Tuan Haji Anis Fahmy, we are stationed at the headquarters, which is located in Petaling Jaya. And the majority of our staff, they are there, including the MEF Academy, yeah, okay. And we are also operating from 2466 regional offices nationwide, yeah, because for your information, we have members throughout the country, yeah. So let's say for the northern region, the 3 states up north, it's being serviced by our officer in the northern region, which is the office is located in Penang. Yeah, okay. For southern region, of course, in Ulu Tiram, Johor, and then for East Coast region, covering Pahang, Kelantan, and Terengganu. So they are based in Kuantan, and then we have a para office which is located in Ipoh, Sarawak, and Sabah. Yeah. Okay. Now, when we claim ourselves to be nationally recognized, as I would like to share with you these 2 slides, these are among we call it the council of the various government ministries or agencies where the representatives deriving from wakil-wakil, majikan swasta, pekerja, which is normally represented by MTUC and QPEX, and the government itself. The government is, of course, that particular ministry. Contohnya, like the NLAC, this is the highest council discussing labour matters in the country. Dekat MOHR, Ministry of Human Resources. So MEF ada wakil di sana. Begitu juga with National Wages Consultative Council dengan MOHR. And then we also have our council or our representative in the EPF board, HRDC board dan sebagainya. Okay, ni yang lain-lain SOCSO board dan sebagainya. Now, so kalau let's say outside Malaysia, we are in fact, we call it a founder member of ASEAN Confederation of Employers. Maknanya all the employers organizations, EOs, we call it EOs, employers organizations within ASEAN though. Okay, we are also member of ACE, yeah. Maknanya the relationship and the orang kata work relationship between ataupun among the ASEAN EOs are very strong under the flagship of ACE, yeah, and as well as under the flagship of CAPE. Okay, now for international representation, we are a member of IOE. IOE, I think currently ada 144 lebih, negara in which their EOs are members of IOE, and we every year we take part in the ILC, which is the International Labour Conference organized by ILO. Okay, now, so MEF participates in the various government dialogues because, as I mentioned earlier, we are representing the employers in the country, and we get the recognition. Jadi MEF will be invited in the various government dialogues and make representations on various matters. Contohnya, let's say in MOF, macam kita nak buat the budget, the budget dialogue, so we take part, and then the MITI dialogue, and macam-macam lah, as long as they are of the interest of employers in the country, MEF will participate in the various dialogue and numerous representations being made by us. Okay, now, when I mentioned that MEF service members in particular and employers at large, okay, now, you look at this slide. For MEF being an organization, okay, before that, we are an association, being registered under ROS, Registrar of Societies. Jadi, for our activities, some of the activities we have to charge you lah, okay, in which the charges are very minimal, which I will explain later. And for other services, it will be given free because you bayar subscription for the year. Okay, tapi okay, you look at the number of services that we provide. Okay, we categorize them into 5 big categories. Yeah, industrial relations, big data, IT, OSH, and training. Okay, now I will go through with you. Okay, now before okay, normally we don't sweet talk in which sometimes like a new member, when they first join us, they will be asking all the services free ke apa? Okay, now let me explain to you lah. Okay, now for free, kita ada free, kita ada fee. For free based services, of course, if you would like to have macam advice and guidance, you can call us up, you can email to us your questions, you can fax, or you can interact through our members portal, and okay, face-to-face pun boleh. You make appointments, prior appointments to see our consultants in our respective offices, and then it will be free, Okay, now, you will also be given or be getting email blast. Memang banyak email blast. Email blast ni normally in terms of our circulars, we send to you via email, okay. Lepas tu on the announcements of our courses, of our surveys, and banyak perkara lah, we will email blast to you. You will get the email blast quite regularly. Lepas tu, okay, simple written opinion. Okay, simple, the word is simple. I have to stress the fact simple there. Because contoh, you already have with you a letter of offer lah, katakan already drafted lah. You have been using that letter for decades lah. When you are appointed as a HR executive ke, okay, it has been used many years. Jadi contohnya you are our member. Lepas tu, okay, why not? I would like to get MEF opinion whether our existing letter of offer is in accordance to the law, something like that. That was simple written opinion lah. Okay, so our consultant will have a look at it. Okay, fine. Unless if it is starting from scratch, then it will be fee-based. Okay, kalau already there and simple written opinion, you would like us to answer you simple lagi satu. Katakanlah you would like to get some advice from our consultants. Make it simple lah, in which the free base is simple opinion on any IR or HR issues, okay? And then lepas tu monthly meetings is also one of the advantages of becoming our member, because we know that our members do not face problems every day lah. Okay, touch wood. Okay, now. So monthly meetings is a very good platform for you. If let's say you as an HR practitioner, you would like to siapa ni apa tu update your knowledge kan, because you know like HIR field ni is very dynamic, banyak perubahan, you know, banyak new announcement, new regulations being revised dan sebagainya by the government. So sangat bagus if you attend our monthly meetings. Okay, it is online. Okay, online, jadi a company can send 2-3 orang pun tak apa. Okay, normally for our monthly meetings, it is scheduled way ahead lah. Contohnya, we have regions kan, tadi I showed you that we have many regional officers. Jadi contohnya, misalnya in Central Region itself, Central Region ni in Klang Valley, contoh in Klang Valley, kita ada 2 group because that is the largest group. Jadi Klang, Shah Alam semua tu every Tuesday of the month contohnya, and for KL misalnya it is every 3rd Wednesday of the month. Macam tu. Jadi you can mark your diary lah. Kalau katalah that particular day tu falls on a public holiday ke, so for whatever reason lah, election ke apa, we will move that scheduled date tu or scheduled day tu to another day ke apa benda, we will inform you lah. Tapi make sure that you do not miss our monthly meetings, because normally the meetings ni macam ni. It will be maybe dalam 2 jam, macam tu 2 jam setengah. The first hour of the meeting tu will be macam briefing contohnya. Our consultant in attendance will brief you on certain katakan issues on the law. Maybe dalam half an hour, lepas tu baru kita continue with the agenda of meeting, which is current disputes discussion dan sebagainya. Kalau you miss the meeting, tak apa. It will be available in the MEF members portal. So members will be getting access to the portal, but there will be 4 user password will be given, meaning 4 persons within your organization can have access to our members portal, and there is an interactive column which is Ask MEF, something like that, in which there will be a macam a learning platform for you lah from other companies punya, because it is not PNC, it is posted there. You will learn something from there lah. Alright, now. Jadi WhatsApp group pula. WhatsApp group ni is something that we created bila macam last year contohnya, banyak company yang work from home dan sebagainya. Jadi kita created the WhatsApp group lah, in which there are many groups and then it is also an interactive platform kan. Okay, that one is free. Okay, fee ni of course court representation. Katakanlah if let's say nasib tak baik, you know, you sack a staff, lepas tu staff tu tak happy, you know, dia pergi report to labor ke IR office ke whatsoever, ada you will be summoned with contohnya surat from labor department ke IR department ke for you to appear. Contohnya ada court cases kan sebagainya, MEF can represent me. There's no need for you to run haywire to look for good lawyers to represent you. Tak payah, because MEF, our lawyers, our IR consultants, they are professionals and they are very experienced. They have appeared in court cases dan banyak kali juga menang. Ada juga yang kalah lah. We don't sweet talk you. Tapi it depends on the complexity of the case that was on the case that was brought to us lah. Okay, now. So there will be a minimum charge, you know, in which minimal charge we do not compromise on the quality. Tapi because you are our member, we will give you a very good rate, which is we call it minimally charged for court representation. Itu kalau ada court representation, ada case, kalau tak ada tak payah bayar lah. And then consultancy packages. This is something like katakan you want to do HR audit ke, IR audit ke, OSH audit ke, kita buat. Okay, and then at the same time maybe kalau katakan you have a handbook, your office, your organization has a handbook, you would like us to review. Okay, ini pun consultancy ni, we call it consultancy packages. We do not fix the price dulu. We see on the complexity of the document. Contohnya, you would like us to start from scratch. This is the price. Kalau already there, you want us to review. This is another price. Contohnya, and then kalau katalah if you have budget constraint or whatever, you can always discuss with our consultants, and that falls under consultancy packages. We even have like translation pun boleh ya. Macam contohnya handbook, you would like to have macam contohnya to be translated into from English to BM pun boleh ya. Alright, now. And then seminars, webinars, conferences, of course, this one is also open. Okay, court representation, consultancy packages only open for members. Tapi seminars, webinars, conferences, kita buka juga untuk non-members. Of course, members, non-members have different rates. Alright. Same applies to training and our publications. Yang bawah-bawah ni, the three one, seminar, webinar, conferences, training, publications, it opens to member and non-members juga, tapi of different rate, of course. But court representation, consultancy packages only applicable to members saja. Yeah. Alright, now. Okay, so for IR services, this is to recap what I've explained to you just now lah. Okay, now. Conciliation at IR department pun kita buat ya, monthly meetings, training on IR and HR audit. Okay, ini contoh ni tadi gambar yang kecil tu kat situ. Ini contohnya online punya meeting. One of our consultants who will be in attendance will give macam contohnya a talk lah, maybe dalam setengah jam tu, to update members on macam ni contohnya employment and termination and layoff benefits amendment regulations, you know, something like that. So it is a very good platform for you. Okay, this is our kata very hot, which is upcoming IR event. You shouldn't miss this opportunity because we have a team of highly powered speakers. Tengok muka pun dah tahu siapa-siapa mereka. And then, okay, the thing is, it will be conducted face to face. Macam dulu kita semua banyak online. Kali ni kita face to face. And for those of you who attend this particular conference, members, non-members ada different rate. And then you will be getting a free publication, which is Probationers and the Law. Buku ni akan be launched on the conference day itself, and it is part of the package lah, FOC. Okay, now. So for big data research and information services, kita ada three main topics of services, which is survey and publications, library, resource center services, and economic labor data. Okay, library ni dulu we used to have quite a big library lah, quite size big. Handsome size library lah. Tapi because sekarang ni banyak online kan, jadi we shrink that the size. We concentrate on resource center online services lah. Tapi members are still welcome if they want to use our facility for reference dan sebagainya. And then survey and publications nanti I touch with you. And then economic and labor data ni, this is also part of the survey. Dan juga let's see if katakan company tu they would like to have macam consumer price index ke inflation rate ke whatsoever, yang latest is they can always contact us for the details. Okay, now ini the survey and publications tadi. Okay, now this is for year 2021 punya survey for executives and non-executives. Kita memang keluarkan 2 volume lah. So all benchmark positions di bawah executive positions dengan non-executives compiled and tabulated, and we came out with these publications. Ini untuk 2021. Untuk 2022 saya difahamkan we have already launched the survey in June. Dan dah habis hari tu, tarikh tutup September 30th, dan sekarang we are in the process of tabulating, and we will compile, and insyaAllah in November we will launch the survey books as well as the results will be announced. And normally kita akan announce by having a press statement coming out, and then ni contohnya dekat tepi ni, ini contohnya misalnya kata based on our tinjauan MEF, our survey, you know, what is the katakan the trend of increment ke for executive position, or maybe what is the forecast for bonus dan sebagainya. So it will be coming out after we have completed our survey books. And then buku-buku ni pun kita jual. Okay, bear in mind that our publications are exclusively available in MEF here. Kita tak jual dekat bookstores outside. Alright. Okey, yang ini ialah our survey series yang lain lah. Ini contohnya buku bila kita buat survey on the implementation of work from home dan sebagainya. So we compile, ya. Okey, adalah pihak-pihak yang berminat yang nak tahu, and then the results tu kita jual lah, all these books. Okay, now. Yang ini pula on IR, Industrial Relations Series, ya. Okey, kita, as I mentioned, kita ada pool of experts within our organisation. Jadi we get them to come out with the contohnya sample of cases dan sebagainya. So we come up with these publications, in which contohnya it is a practical guide. The word practical here dekat, it is a very practical, bukan textbook kind of information. Contohnya macam ni, macam buku yang hijau ni, practical guide ni. I normally will encourage the HR practitioners to have a copy of that book. Kita dah keluarkan second edition. Dengar-dengar cerita dah nak habis. Jadi siapa yang nak beli tu cepat-cepat lah because tak banyak lagi tinggal. Maybe we will come out with third edition maybe tahun depan lah. Because for those of you who are HR practitioners, kita, being in the membership, banyak kali juga we are being approached, companies, HR people asking us, Puan, do you have a sample of such and such letter, macam letter of termination ke, or maybe kita nak buat DI, but those documents kita grasping to get those samples dan sebagainya. Jadi we feedback to the management, and the management decided that we come up with this practical guide, which is very, very useful, very, very good. Should have it dekat sebelah you lah, kalau macam you you want to be an efficient HR practitioner. Ni contohnya lah. Okay, nanti buku Probationers and the Law ni, kalau you tak attend our IR conference, the books will be sold. Nanti kita announce lah harga dia semua berapa. Of course, members, non-members, different rate. Tapi better masuklah IR conference tu, which is very good because the package is very good. Okay, now, and then kita ada training, kita ada MEF Academy, which is actually a subsidiary of MEF. Kita name it Academy because kita punya the courses that we offer, not only the short certificate, short courses, certification IR, HR pun kita buat. Kita juga ada diploma in IR, which the module 2 termasuk juga from the ILO, alright, and kita punya diploma tu laris lah, in which those people yang graduated from our academy tu with MEF IR diploma, for example, selalunya being snatched by other company lah, ataupun kata laris lah because the quality is very good. Okay, now, okay, ini antara some of the information of the MEF Academy, and you can see that the type of courses that we undertake, which is of course circling around HRM, HRD. We also collaborate with industry specialists on IR. Of course, we have the pool of experts there. On OSH pun kita buat training, conferences dan juga academic programs, certification courses dan sebagainya. Okay, now. Okay, other events. Okay, if you look at the pictures which I shared in this slide, okay, here on the left, on my left, which is also on your left perhaps, the practical implementation of Employment Act with the latest amendments. I tengok banyak lalu, in my FB dan IG dan sebagainya, banyak orang buat juga, and by organizations buat juga. But MEF, as I said, that we have the kelebihan di situlah, in which this one in fact for kita buat macam Johor dah habis, and then we will be having one in Penang lah soon, 24-27. Okay, you 26-27. You watch out for the announcement in our social media. Kita akan post in our social media from time to time of our activities. Yang ni kita conduct dengan lembaga hasil, I think for the 12 or 13 years already. Kita buat text webinar, and for MEF members, non-members pun boleh attend lah, right now. And this one is we took part in the Hari Koperasi Kebangsaan as an exhibitor there. Even for HRDC Open Day pun kita took part as an exhibitor. And yang bawah ni, bila kita dah mula buat face-to-face, we conducted our national conference last month. The response was so good. Right? Okay, now for membership, okay, a quick run through membership slides. There are two types of membership: ordinary membership, association membership. Okay, kalau you as a company, a sendirian berhad, or as an entrepreneur or an enterprise, you tak ada subsidiaries, okay, you join us as a single company. Kalau your organisation ada subsidiaries or affiliated companies lah, jadi you can join us as a group dengan syarat the subsidiaries HR functions are centralized to the holding company. Maknanya segala keputusan on IR, HR tu you got to refer to your holding company. You can opt to join as a group member. Your company may have 50 subsidiaries. Tapi for membership of MEF purpose, you would like to maybe masukkan 10 saja dulu pun boleh, tiada paksaan. And for MEF membership, single company and group, nanti I will show you dia punya statistics of the growth, Association membership, kata kalau within your industry, you have katakan ada satu persatuan yang memayungi your company. Contohnya you are an insurance company, kita ada AHI kan, AHI, Association of Insurance Employers. Contohnya you are a member of AHI, you would like to join us. So di bawah association membership AHI itu, AHI is already our member lah, association membership. Jadi you will be paying 80% saja daripada the subscription, in which itu kelebihan lah kalau your association is our member. Macam ni. Tapi it is a bit complicated kalau saya nak explain semua sekarang. I do not want to take so much of your time in explaining association membership. You can always contact us for us to brief you later on. Jadi ordinary ke apa benda ke single or group, it is being determined by the total workforce. Contohnya kalau your company ada 80 orang, that one is subject to minimum of RM1,000. Maksimum kita RM6,000 per year, setahun. Okay, contohnya kalau you ada 20 orang pun RM1,000 lah. Sebab dia subject minimum kan. Kalau you ada 150 orang, then you use this formula. The first 100, RM10 kali 100 orang kan, 1,000 kan. Lepas tu dah 50 orang kali RM8 macam tu. RM1,400 for companies having 150 orang. Contohnya macam tu lah. Maksimum ni kalau company you besar melebihi 3,900 orang, you only pay RM6,000. Dalam this kategori kita ada macam contohnya yang besar lah, like Tenaga Nasional ke Telekom Malaysia, dia our members, they are paying the maximum of RM6,000. Okay, ini association lah, ada 2, 4, 6 jenis. Okay, macam-macam association, macam as I mentioned tadi, industry groups. Okay, now. Okay, ini ordinary membership lah. Dia punya growth steadily lah. Okay, sekarang kita dah hampir 6,500 as of September. Okay, jadi kita punya employees employed by MEF members ni dulu dalam 3 juta, 3.1, tapi you tahulah dengan PKP dan sebagainya, company pun banyak downsize. Jadi kita sekarang ni dalam 2.9 lah million. Okay, employees employed by our members, both in ordinary dengan association. Okay, this is the pejabat-pejabat MEF seantero Malaysia lah. Okay, so yang the one that I mentioned tadi, Central Region tu paling ramai. Yang kita also ada Perak, Northern, East Coast, East Malaysia, Sabah Sarawak, Southern Region. Others ni kita ada companies even in Singapore, Singapore address, they become our member. Okay, now for those of you who are online now, okay, dengar baik-baik. Okay, kita ada new member incentive scheme. Kalau you member ke, you bukan member ke, kalau kata you are the referrer or you are the introducer of a new member joining MEF, we will reward you RM450 to you, not to your company. Okay, tapi dengan TNC applies is because contohnya you minta your management, join lah MEF kata, tapi you yourself cannot be the referrer. It has to be some from a different company. Macam itulah. So the incentive is valid up to 31st December. Jadi cepat-cepatlah grab this opportunity. Okay, now. Lepas tu this one panas lagi lah with effect from 17 October, 2 hari lepas. Okay, we understand that the problem of foreign workers kan, which our companies, member companies are facing, maybe nak hantar dia balik, lepas tu nak beli tiket to and fro dan sebagainya. Jadi MEF together with MES, MES Malaysian Malaysian Airlines, kita buat this program in which the flight ticket is only for 7 destinations untuk pekerja-pekerja Bangla ke Nepal, Vietnam, Indonesia, balik nak Jakarta, Bali, Surabaya, Medan. Ini only these 7 locations saja. Jadi kalau nak, you boleh contact kita punya hotline lah dekat sini. Jangan call MEF general line. Ada dia punya phone number of the officer who handles this matter. Sebenarnya ever since the circular came out, dah ramai orang call, tapi masa tu belum take into effect lagi. Jadi sekarang sudah boleh right now. Okay, so itu saja from me, in which MEF team would like to welcome you. If you would like to become our member, kita mengalu-alukan. And then for those of you who are online today, okay, sekarang this is online. Jadi kita ada 3 confirmed venues where we will be having face-to-face. Jadi kalau you ada kawan-kawan di Perak, we will be having it on the 11 November in Perak. Nanti you watch out for our announcement in our social media. Lepas tu we will have one in Kuantan, tak silap saya 21 ke 22 November macam tu in our Kuantan office. And 6 Disember kita akan ada satu lagi face to face, a similar program like this di MEF office di Kuching. Jadi itu saja, ini nombor-nombor ajaib ni, you call us up lah for any enquiries on MEF dan juga our services, or maybe if you like to have macam general enquiries ke, you can always contact us. Even you can put up your inquiry to MEF membership. Okay, with that, terima kasih banyak-banyak for your patience, and sorry kalau I termiss apa-apa terslip of words ya. Maklumlah kan online. Okay, terima kasih Cik Zakri, over to you then.
Thank you, Haja Haslina. I think that was a very detailed and comprehensive presentation by Haja Haslina. She's been with MEF for many years. And I also want to introduce our next speaker, Haji Anis Fahmy, who has also been with MEF for many years, and he's the point of reference on all occupational safety and health matters. So this afternoon, he'll be speaking on the amendments to the latest OSH Act 2022. So we've been hearing a lot about the Employment Act punya amendments, the Industrial Relations Act amendments, the Trade Unions Act. So OSH Act pun ada amendment, a new act. I think there are a lot of things that employers must know in order for us to move forward. So without wasting more time, I invite Tuan Haji Anis Fahmy Pauzi to deliver his presentation. Dipersilakan Tuan Haji.
Thank you, Cik Zakri, Puan Haslina, for the presentation just now. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Very good afternoon to everybody. I will try to make it brief as possible because the time is limited. I think I was given 1 hour, almost 1 hour to present the amendment to the OSH Act. Okay. So my topic of discussion today will be on some of the highlights related to the OSH amendment, Occupational Safety and Health Amendment. The Principal Act, which is the Act 1994, the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, is still implemented. It is still implemented, and please do not throw it away, because that one is the Principal Act. And what we will be having for the next year is amendment to that particular law, whereby there will be some new insertion of provision, and there will be some deletion of existing provision, and also there will be some substitution to some of the provision in the Principal Act, which is the OSHA 1994. So the new amendment, OSHA 2022, is already gazetted. So it is already gazetted on the 4th of March. So if you are not aware, it is already gazetted on the 16th of March, and which means that it is already ready. What we are waiting now is for it to be enforced by the Department of OSH. So I was told by DOSH, Department of OSH, that tentatively the new amendment will take effect on June 2023. Again, this is a tentative date. It may change, it may remain, so we're not sure. But according to the authority, it will be June 2023. And we have about roughly 8 months to be prepared for the new enforcement, for the new changes that will happen throughout the OSH Act 1994. And at the same time, when they when they do the amendment, enforce the amendment on the OSH Act 1994, concurrently, the Factory and Machinery Act will be revoked, ditarik balik. So what we will have later on, only one piece of law. We will have only one piece of law. We will only have OSH Act. So whatever remains from the Factory and Machinery Act will be migrated to OSH Act, and strictly the Factory and Machinery Act 1967 will be revoked. So we will only have one piece of law later. Hopefully by June next year, we will only have OSH Act. So the authority will focus on enforcing the OSH Act, no more Factory and Machinery Act. But some element of the Factory and Machinery Act will be migrated to the OSH Act. So in principle, starting from next year, the approach or the way forward would be self-regulation. As we know, the OSH Act is a self-regulatory law, peraturan kendiri, whereas the Factory and Machinery Act is a prescriptive law. In other words, now we are into world. We are performing self-regulatory. At the same time, we are also obliged to follow strictly the Factory and Machinery Act, which is a prescriptive law. But starting from next year, then we only have one piece of law, and that particular law is self-regulatory. So by now, you have to be prepared to manage safety and health as a self-regulatory, fully self-regulatory piece of law. And so employers, companies, be prepared to be governed by a self-regulatory law. So what it means is, as much as possible, interference from the authority will be reduced. Meaning to say, you have to manage your own safety and health affairs. You have to be competent enough to ensure that whatever is obliged by the law, you follow strictly. So later on, it is a self-regulatory piece of law. You need to have a proper people. The people must be competent so that you can self-govern. You can self-govern your internal affairs related to safety and health. So this is the paradigm shift that will happen starting from next year. Okay, as you can see here, the blue box is the existing Principal Act. The blue box here is the existing Principal Act. The yellow box is new. The yellow box here is new. The provision on notification of occupation of place of work, installation and inspection of machine, of plant. This is totally new. It is not in our existing Principal Act. When I say Principal Act, the OSHA 1994. So this is totally a new part inserted into the amendment. And as you can see here, on the Principal Act, there are 3 types of amendment. Some provisions are substituted, some provisions are deleted, and some provisions are inserted. Inserted meaning new. Substitution meaning the provisions are there, but there will be some new changes to it. Okay, so as you can see, we have a whole part here being introduced or inserted to the OSH Act. This is also new, competent person and registered training provider, also new, which is not yet, which is not in the Principal Act now, but once the effective date is on, then you have to observe this, competent person and registered training provider. So in total, you can see here that there are 53 substitutions in the Principal Act. There are 24 deletion, 43 inserted into the parts, and there is 2 new, totally new parts. So this is the summary. This is a summary of the provision of the amendment, and as you can see, based on the substitution, deletion, insertion, and new parts, it is not just simply a normal amendment. It is a systematic and systemic amendment. So there are a lot of amendment done in the OSH Amendment 2022. But as for today, I will discuss what are the main concerns. What are the main concerns that you need to pay attention in the event that the amendment are taking place next year. Okay, one of the new insertion to this OSH Act is certificate of fitness. A certificate of fitness, meaning to say machineries, plant need to have certificate of fitness, which is basically a migration from Factory and Machinery Act. So starting from next year, you have to observe the certificate of fitness will be under OSH Act. And it DOSH will focus on enforcement. DOSH will focus on enforcement. Inspection activities. Inspection activities will be done by an independent inspection body. An independent inspection body. So this is the way forward. I was told by DOSH, they are focusing more on enforcement activities. So the inspection body, the independent inspection body will function as the body to inspect plants. Plant includes machineries, machineries, high-risk machineries, and this inspection body will issue certificate of fitness for machineries. So this is one of the new strategy by DOSH, because as we know, throughout the nation, we have 400,000 plus certificated machine. I was told by DOSH, we have about 400,000. So if the inspection is carried out just by DOSH, then they cannot cover the whole the whole machineries that we have. So the new strategy is to have an inspection body to look into inspection matter. So this is something that will take place next year. And of course, if it is not done properly, then there will be penalties, as stated here. Okay, number two that we have to take note is companies starting from next year, you must have SOP. You must have standard operating procedure specifically for emergencies. So if you don't have it now, then this is the high time. Please discuss this with your management to establish SOP for emergencies. And you cannot cut and paste from other companies because your SOP must be unique to your organization. So you have to be careful. Please do not cut and paste from other institution or organization, but you have to make sure that your emergency is tailored to your organization. Example, if your company is exposed to fire due to fire sources that you have within the organization, then you need to have an SOP covering fire emergency. Or you do store chemical that can explode, or your processes can cause explosion. Then how do you cater for that? Do you have an SOP to respond to such emergency? So this is now clear in the new amendment. Company must have SOP for emergencies, and of course the one that I list down here is example of emergency that might happen within the organization. Natural disaster, for example, you are exposed, your area is exposed to flooding, and then you need to have a emergency response for flood. So it depends on where you are, what are your processes, what are your activities. So you have to make sure that those activities, your location are covered, are covering all of these emergencies. Chemical spillage, if you are handling chemical, in the event the chemical spillage and goes into the stream, goes into the river, do you have emergency response to mitigate the spillage? Or you have chemical that go airborne, do you have an emergency SOP to respond to airborne contamination? In the event your worker get injured due to work, so how do you handle it? Do you have a proper team? Do you have a proper SOP to cover injury? To respond to any injuries, and how do you mitigate the problem? Do you have an action plan in how to send the injured person to the nearest emergency healthcare facility, for example? So all of this emergency you need to establish, and now for the time being we don't have this requirement under the OSH Act, but later we must have specific SOP on emergency. And when you talk about emergency, at least you have to cover 3 tiers. How do you respond to it internally? Let's say if I see a fire, am I trained to extinguish the fire, for example? But if I cannot handle the fire, do you have a response team on how to extinguish the fire? And if it is beyond the capacity of the emergency response team, then how do you hand over the issue of the emergency to the authority? So at least you cover 3 tiers in your SOP. So these are new. These are new SOP required by the amendment of the law that companies must have. So please, later on, have a look at your own venue, have a look at your own processes, and what might be the emergency that can happen due to processes and the venue that you are at. So this is something that hopefully you can cover, and you still have time, because the tentative date is next year, it's June next year. Okay, and number 2, and the next one is on the general duties of employer. The law now introduced the term principal. So what principal means is, whenever you have a contract of service, when you have a contract of service with another party to perform certain job, and you pay that party, then you become the principal. So whenever you become a principal, then you need to observe Section 15. Section 15 of the OSH Act, whereby you have to make sure that the system of work is safe. You have to make sure that you maintain properly the plant. You make sure that the proper PPE is given to the worker, regardless whether they are your permanent worker or they are your temporary worker. Once you become a principal to a certain project, then you have to observe strictly Section 15, which is the general duties of employer. So this is a term being coined to the new law, which is principle. We do have this previous now. Normally, we segregate into two: immediate employer, direct employer. But now they are using the term principal. So the term principal is important because we want to make sure that regardless of the status of the worker, temporarily or not, permanent or temporarily, they are covered, and and the principal need to make sure that you do your part as a principal to make sure the safety of the worker. And so principal need to cover your contractor, your subcontractor, and also your employees. And you have to make sure that when they perform the job, they are safe. Okay, the next one is Section 16. Section 16 talks about safety and health policy. So bear in mind that this is the every organization with 5 people and above, then you need to establish a safety and health policy. And that policy must be written down, and it must be communicated to everybody, all the stakeholders. What I want to stress here is, please, whenever your policy must go by this name, occupational safety and health policy. And so please try to put this in, because a lot of company you just have the safety and health policy, but the actual next year, please make sure that the title of your policy is occupational safety and health policy, and not having the policy, not having the OSH policy carry maximum penalty. So it is very important that you have the policy, the OSH policy in place, and please make sure that the highest rank of the organization authorize the OSH policy. And in that policy, make sure that you have some element of self-regulatory. As I mentioned earlier, starting from next year, the law itself is fully self-regulatory. So you need to reflect that in your OSH policy. Have some sentences or some wording to show that you are operating your safety and health within the organization, and you uphold self-regulatory. So try to insert that into your policy. And if you don't have it now, revise. Please revise your existing policy and try to have some element of self-regulation within the policy. This is also new under Section 18. Section 18 in the new amendment. Companies or employer, you need to conduct risk assessment. Risk assessment. So risk assessment now is clearly defined, is clearly stated in the law. So whatever activity, activity carried out by the worker, the process. So you have to make sure that a risk assessment is conducted. A risk assessment is conducted. When you say you conduct risk assessment, you need to also ensure that you put in place the control after you have determined the risk level. And normally in the past, if you do the risk assessment and you identify that the risk level is high, then you have to also ensure that the type of control measure is at least engineering control. It's at least engineering control or higher, or a higher degree of control. Because normally if it is high risk, then the worker is at risk. He can die or he can get serious bodily injury in his work. So in the past, my experience shows that when I deal with DOSH, if the risk assessment conclude that the job is high risk, and you just suggest to the company PPE, which is the highest, which is the lowest order of hierarchy of control, normally it is not acceptable. Normally, DOSH will ask you to improve because, as we know, the hierarchy of control, PPE is the last resort. So you have to make sure that whenever you conclude a risk is high, it must tally with hierarchy of control. At least if you can eliminate, then go ahead, go for elimination. If not, you go for substitution or you go for engineering control types of control measure. Then it is acceptable in the eyes of DOSH. But in the past, my experience shows that when it is a high risk work or high risk of hazard, and the proposal is only PPE or training alone, and then normally it is not acceptable to the authority. So this is something that I want to highlight to you. Take it seriously. You cannot simply, when you do your risk assessment, you get a high risk level, you settle for PPE. It doesn't work like that. You have to make sure that you go for the, as far as practicable, the highest level of control measure. Okay, so hopefully you can do that. It is because in the past, that's my experience with the authority. Normally, if you just keep on promoting PPE for high risk kind of risk level, then normally it is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. Okay, so as I mentioned, starting from next year, actually you have to do it now, but legally it becomes mandatory for you to conduct risk assessment. And remember, when you do risk assessment, you cannot generalize risk assessment for every types of hazard. You cannot generalize. You have to make sure that the type of risk assessment that you do is the valid tool for that particular hazard. For example, if you are doing a risk assessment for physical hazard, then you can use hazard identification, risk assessment, and control, which is a very common tool used by the industry for physical hazard. So use the correct tool. Just like if you want to measure a person height, then you go for a person weight. Then you have to ask him to stand on the scale. You cannot use a ruler. You have to ask him to stand on the scale, and then you know his weight. Sama juga di sini, when you do risk assessment, you have to make sure that the risk assessment is using the valid tool. So if you want to do the risk assessment for hazardous chemical, then the right tool is chemical health risk assessment, right? Sama juga, if you want to do ergonomic risk assessment, then you can use the guideline published by DOSH to do the ergonomic risk assessment. Either it is initial error or advanced error, then you can use that reference. So this is something that you need to consider first before you conduct risk assessment. You cannot simply use any risk assessment if it is for every type of hazard, because we do have specific risk assessment method as I have laid out here. Okay, so if you do not conduct, either you don't have emergency response procedure, you don't conduct any risk assessment for your hazard that you're exposed to the worker, then next year, this is the penalty, 500,000 or imprisonment. So the general duties of employer, carries maximum penalty here, 500,000. So please take note of this. This is something that will happen next year. Okay, and another important highlight that I want to share is currently under the duty of worker, the title is only general duties of employees. So this part discusses what the employee is supposed to do to ensure he is safe at the workplace. For example, he needs to wear PPE whenever it is given by the employer. He needs to cooperate when the employer conduct any safety and health arrangement. For example, if there is any any SOP. He needs to follow the SOP. So all are talking about instruction on how to behave in terms of employee's duty. But now the law has coined the term rights. Jadi undang-undang yang pindaan ini telah memasukkan hak pekerja. So what are the rights of the employee in terms of safety and health? So this is a it is a term coined by the ILO, International Labour Organization. They were propagating for this term to be used for many years. So finally, it is now in our law. You can see that it is not just about the duties of employees, but also what are their rights in terms of safety and health. And so you can see now, if the worker is not complying to Section 24, currently is 100,000 ringgit. Sorry, 1,000 ringgit. But from next year, then if a person or a worker do not comply to Section 24, then the penalty is 2,000 ringgit. 2,000 ringgit. So there's a 100% increase in the penalty. So take note of this. So what is the right? So every worker have the right for a safe workplace. In the event that the workplace is posing imminent danger. In the event that the workplace is posing imminent danger, tempat kerja yang bahaya pada pekerja, then the employee, pekerja tersebut, the employee need to inform the employer of the danger. So he needs to inform the employer of the danger, and the employer need to remove the danger. Need to remove the danger. The employer need to remove the danger. In the event the employer do nothing or fail to remove or take action on the danger, then the worker has the right to remove himself or excuse himself from continuing working at that particular hazardous area. And so this is something new, which is not in the Section 20, which is not in Part 6, which is general duties of employees. Jadi sekarang kena hati-hati kerana majikan kena pastikan ada procedure. You have to make sure you have a procedure internally for workers to provide feedback on danger, on hazard, on risk, so that the employer can do some mitigation to ensure that the workplace is safe. If an employer failed to do so, then according to the law, the worker can remove himself, meaning he can excuse from continuing doing that job. Okay, so this is new. So hopefully, company, you need to come up with an SOP, a proper form, a proper channel, so that the employees can complain or give feedback whenever the need arises, whenever there is any imminent danger. So what do we mean by imminent danger? Imminent danger here cover any risk that can cause death. That can cause death, yang boleh menyebabkan kematian, or serious bodily injury. So what do we mean by serious bodily injury? You need to refer to the schedule. There's a schedule on serious bodily injury which will be inserted to the OSH Act. So have a look at it later. I won't discuss here. There's a long list. It's around 2 pages. 2 pages on specific injury that is defined as serious bodily injury. So in such cases, imminent danger, then the worker can remove himself in the event the employer fail to improve the condition of work. And by doing so, by removing himself, no consequences shall be upon him. No discrimination can be against the employee. So this is something you need to take note, and how to respond to this is to have a proper procedure for the worker to report. For the worker to report in such event that he is in a imminent danger position. Okay, so this is the summary. So what will happen if you are working in a dangerous zone or imminent danger zone? The employer needs to inform the employer, and the employee needs to inform the employer. And then the employer need to do something to mitigate the danger. And if the employer fail, then the worker can remove himself from such imminent danger area. And by doing so, the employer cannot discriminate, cannot injure the worker in terms of his position, cannot discriminate for doing so, because he is trying to save his life from being injured while working. So this is purely new, which is not yet in our law, but it will be enforced next year, June 2023. If the employer discriminate, then this is the penalty, 100,000 ringgit, or imprisonment, either or. So please be serious about this. Make sure that you carefully have a proper SOP so that the worker can inform the employer without feeling frightened and feel can take the liberty to report. So this is very important. You may also consider to have a stop work policy. You may also consider to have a stop work policy. So it becomes a norm in the organization. Whenever you are in a grave position or in an imminent danger position, you have the right to stop work. So you may introduce a stop work policy, and I think it is quite common. If you go to the oil and gas sector, stop work policy for high-risk job is a common policy. So without fear, the worker can simply stop work and discuss the matter with the superior, with the supervisor, and they can stop from doing continuing the dangerous operation, and they need to control and put some control in place. And so it is what it is not something new, but in terms of putting it in the law, it's new. We didn't have this before, but now it is in. Okay, another new amendment, a new thing that you need to do later, but of course this is subjected to the minister prescription. The workplace need to notify DOSH. So if you occupy or use a certain places of work, and you perform activity, you perform work, then you need to notify DOSH. But again, whether this will be to all industry, to all workplace, we have to wait. We have to wait for a prescribed list by the minister. As we know, currently under Factory Mission Act, for example, the construction site, they need to notify kilang, they need to notify the premises. But now we have to wait for the prescribed list by the minister. What type of premise need to notify DOSH? Okay, so and again, certificate of machine, certificate of fitness is required, and you need to ensure that it is being inspected by the inspection body. Okay, this is also being inserted, I can say inserted into the section 29, which is section for the safety and health officer. So now it is clear, one safety officer, safety and health officer, can only work one place, at one time, unless if you need some If you want to appeal, you can appeal to the Director General of DOSH. But now it is clearly, verbatimly stated that one safety officer can only work for one place of work at one time. So please take note of the, if your safety officer now is taking care of few plants, you have one safety officer, you have taking care of few branches in Sabah, few branches in Sarawak, that cannot be the case next year. But again, you can appeal to JKKP if you need to do that. But as far as the law is concerned, one safety officer is only for one place of work at one time. Okay, and this is the penalty lah. If you don't comply to this, then the penalty will be 50,000 ringgit. Currently, it's only 5,000 ringgit, but starting from next year, any violation will be 50,000 ringgit. So everything is tenfold. Meningkat 10 kali ganda. Okay, this is new. This is new and a hot topic now. Any workplace, which have more than which have 5 or more employees. Okay, so if you have 5 and more employees at the workplace, your workplace must have one occupational safety and health coordinator. Setiap tempat kerja lebih pada 5 orang kena ada satu pegawai lah, dia dikenali sebagai OSH coordinator. An employer whose place of work is not included in any class or description of places of work as published in the Gazette 29, subsection 29(1), shall appoint one of his employees to act as an occupational safety and health coordinator. Kalau tempat kerja tu ada 5 orang ke atas lah. But for companies already having safety officer, they are exempted. They need to have another OSH coordinator. It is sufficient for you to have one safety officer. But for the rest, if you are more than 5 and above, then you need to have one OSH coordinator. Okay, so this is new. Please send your staff to prepare yourself for this. Send your staff for training, for OSH coordinated training, because next year this will be enforced. And so there are specific duties for this OSH coordinator, which I'll show you later. Not having a OSH coordinator later, then the penalty will be 50,000 ringgit or 6 months jail or both. So this is the new development. Of course, we do have OSH coordinator now for certain areas, for certain industry, but it is not mandatory yet. But starting from next year, unless there will be any exemption later on by DOSH, but we don't know yet. What we know is, if you already have a safety officer, tak perlu ada OSH coordinator. Bagi tempat kerja yang 5 orang ke atas, tak ada OSH coordinator, kena adakan mulai tahun depan. Ini ciri-ciri dia OSH coordinator, berpengetahuan, peka, jujur, mempunyai minat terhadap OSH. And for your information, MEF is partnering with MSOSH. MSOSH is the Malaysian Society for OSH. We are partnering to prepare employers for this position, OSH coordinator. So please send your employees for this training with MSOSH. MSOSH is our partner. We are trying our best to prepare the industry, prepare the company to go for this training. And the training is not expensive. I think it's around 300 to 400 ringgit per session, and it will take you 3 days. For physical training, it's 3 days. Once you pass whatever assignment given, then you will be registered under DOSH as a competent OSH coordinator. And please take note of the entry level. Entry level, to be an OSH coordinator must be a Malaysian citizen. Kena warga negara, at least education level, SPM, age range 19 to 60, and you need to have a testimonial by your employer that you have work, you have experience for at least 1 year, and then you are eligible to enter the training for OSH coordinator. And these are the duties of the OSH coordinator, menasihati majikan, similarly to the safety and health officer, memberi nasihat kepada majikan on OSH matter, to inspect the workplace, similar to safety and health officer, to notify and report incidences to the authority in the event you have any mishap, you have any incident, and then to manage risk. Here, what we are trying to say is you need to conduct. Remember, we mentioned earlier that you need to conduct risk assessment. So part and parcel of his duty later is to conduct a risk assessment. So he will be taught on how to conduct risk assessment in the OSH coordinator training. And of course, from time to time, whatever is required of him to do based on the Act and also the provisions. So this is roughly the tanggungjawab, the duties of the OSH coordinator. Okay, one more thing that I want to highlight, though this is already established now, as we know, companies with 40 people and above, you need to establish a safety and health committee. But remember, the penalty is now very severe if you don't establish, because my experience, based on my experience, a lot of companies, though they have in writing the organization, the safety and health committee organization, but they don't regularly meet, they don't go for training, and they seldom perform inspection on all of the function of the committee not carried out properly. So you have to bear in mind that if you look at the penalty, if you don't systematically govern this safety committee, later on it will be 100,000. So please take it seriously. Effective next year, safety and health committee, make sure it works and function properly as per the safety and health committee regulation 1996. Because if not, if you get a visit from DOSH, then you can see that the penalty is very hefty, very high. Jadi pastikan jawatan kuasa tu berfungsi dengan baik, bergerak dengan baik. Adakan setiap 3 bulan sekali inspection. Pastikan minit mesyuarat dijaga dengan baik. Because it's no joke now. You can see that the government is serious. As I mentioned, DOSH is trying to focus on enforcement next year. So and that's why we have to be serious also, whereby we have to administer our safety and health committee meetings properly. Okay, another important thing is there are classes of work, description of work that you need to make sure that you send the people for competency. You need to send the people for competency with an approved OSH training provider, OSH training provider, registered training provider with DOSH. So don't simply send your worker for training to any training provider. Starting from next year, there are certain specific competency that need to go for registered training providers. So you can check with DOSH whether or not certain training provider are listed as an approved training provider before you send these people for training. So there are certain competency that you need to make sure that you go for approved training provider, because the impression is as long as the training provider is registered with HRD Corp, then it's okay. No, please, next year you have to be more vigilant. Pastikan yang dihantar itu yang berdaftar dengan HRD Corp dan juga training provider yang diiktiraf oleh pihak JKKP. Okay, and then another highlight, another thing which is of concern, if you get a notice ni apa dia? Notice from DOSH. Either it is an improvement notice or a prohibition notice, notice pembaikan ataupun notice larangan. Please take it serious. Try to close the notice as per dictated time period by DOSH. Because you can see here the penalty is tenfold. Sekarang ni 5,000 je. Sorry, 50,000. Next year is 500,000 ringgit. 500,000 ringgit if you don't serve the notice properly. So take note of this also. Okay, so the general penalty now is 10,000 ringgit, and for any parts or any regulation which is not specific, which the penalties are not specified, is 10,000 ringgit. But next year, 100,000 ringgit. And also take note, 2,000 ringgit per day for the violation. So it depends also on the day, or how many days that you violate. So you can see that the government is serious in terms of penalty, because they want us to take seriously OSH, because a rich and superpower company, multinational, for example, what is 50,000 ringgit? 1,000 ringgit is nothing. So this is a strategy to deter big companies to take safety and health seriously. For those who are not, but I'm not saying all. Some big companies are very serious on OSH and they do have proper budget for OSH, but not all. Okay, so in summary, these are the highlights on the new amendment. So now there's no scope. When I say scope, meaning if you are familiar with OSH Act, we do have a schedule specifying what are the industries that need to comply to OSHA 1994. So we have a first schedule that spell out the industry that need to comply to OSHA. For example, manufacturing, financing institution, banking sector, restaurant and hotel. So there's a list of industry or company that need to apply and under the ambit of OSHA Act. But now no more list. What does it mean? It means that everybody is covered under OSHA. Everybody must take note of OSHA Act. Unless you are in the exempted list, which is the Army, which is the Merchant Shipping Ordinance, and domestic worker. So those are exempted industry or work or places of work. But other than that, you are in. There's no ambiguity now. Tak kira lah kerja kat mana, dilindungi ataupun terangkum di bawah Akta OSHA lah. Okay, next one is licensed person for inspection. So as I mentioned, the function of inspection now is shifted. It's shifted to a inspection body. It's shifted from DOSH to inspection body. As I mentioned, DOSH wants to focus on enforcement. So a licensed body or inspector body will take over what DOSH is doing now, and they will look into inspection exercises. Okay, company, if you don't have, currently you don't have any procedure on emergency, make sure you have it next year. Do it now. Have a proper drill on your specific emergency according to your scenario and also your venue. So make sure you have proper emergency procedure. Okay. OSH policy, and now if your policy is just stating safety and health, please insert occupational in front of it. So make sure that you have a proper OSH policy, and one of the elements in the policy should be self-regulatory. Okay, I won't dwell on the penalty. You can have a look at here. If you don't comply, then this is the penalty. And in terms of being an employer, you are not just simply an employer now. If you engage outsider, then you are a principal. So the principal is responsible for your direct employee plus the subcontractor and also the contractor's employee. So you have to be more serious when you engage a company to perform certain work for you. Make sure that safety and health is in the contract. Okay, next one is to have to conduct risk assessment. To conduct risk assessment, and risk assessment need to use the correct tool. So if you have yet any risk assessment conducted, then you have to make sure that starting from next year, you have a proper document on risk assessment with control measure, and proper risk assessment with control measure, and the control measure must make sense. If it is high risk, then you cannot simply sort for PPE. It must be a higher order of control measure, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. Okay, I didn't touch much on manufacturers and suppliers duty, but there are some amendment in the manufacturers duty. But the whole idea is whatever item on safety and health, the manufacturer must give the latest version to the end user. Okay, discrimination against employees. As I mentioned, the workers now have right. They have right. And you have to observe the right. If you don't observe the right, if you discriminate the worker, then the penalty will be very severe. Okay, notice of occupation of place of work. If you occupy certain place and you perform work there, you need to notify DOSH. Safety officer, one safety officer for one workplace. For companies with more than 5 people at work, if you don't have a safety officer and you are not in the any exempted list later by DOSH, then you need to have one safety coordinator or OSH coordinator. Safety committee, please make sure that you run smoothly, you run systematically, make sure you have proper minutes and so on, because now the penalty is very severe. And please, whenever you get a visit from DOSH, you either being issued notice of improvement or notice of provision, please try to close it properly, because you can see now that the penalty is very high. And for any other parts in the law, the penalty is now 100,000 ringgit and also daily fine. So I think that's all that I want to share with you. That's it. So thank you for your time, and please keep in touch with MEF. Even better, become our member so that we can have a proper and active engagement with you. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Haji Anis. Please stay online, Haji Anis. Maybe we can, before we disconnect, maybe we can answer some of the questions.
Okay.
That
Boleh.
in the pigeonhole. Maybe let me pick a few here. So this act next year, in the middle of next year, effective, Haji?
Hopefully lah, but depend on the new government lah.
Then you are right lah. So I think we start with this question. Pasal you mentioned your name. We are water operators or orang air ni, and regarding new section 15, is our contractors under our HSE as well?
Yes, you become a principal.
I see. So sama lah ya.
I was trying to explain that lah. If you engage a contractor to perform certain job for you, you become the principal. I see. So whatever is under section 15 is obligatory for you to observe for your contractor and your subcontractor.
I see. Okay, this one daripada finance industry pula. We have branches all over Malaysia. Do we need to have OSH coordinator at each of our branches?
Yes, it is based on venue.
Based on venue. Oh. So
Places
ada headcount ni ya.
So you have to look at the headcount at the branches. If it is more than 5, 1. OSH coordinator.
Finance industry pun masuk sekali lah.
Masuk sekali. Kira duit pun masuk.
Itulah, tengok fine dia pun kau-kau punya. Okay, this one apa? Okay, in order to prevent any enforcement agencies from issuing compounds to us regarding safety and health, please provide a list of agencies so that we can take note on what SOP to comply with. I think this one they kena join MEF lah.
Okay. To be fair to you, okay. When you operate, you need to sit down with your legal advisor or whoever is in charge of legal. You have to come up with your legal register. What are the provisions that you need to follow? Because every organization different legal register. You see, but as far as OSH is concerned, regardless of industry, you need to at least comply to the OSH Act. And under OSH Act, we have, I think, 7 or 8 now, 7 regulation. Please observe those regulation also, because if you don't, as I mentioned, it's going to be very severe next year. So try to do an internal audit within yourself. You need to do your legal audit lah, or legal analysis gap, so you know where you are lah. But if you want me to list down for you, it is not possible, because I am not familiar with your industry. But at least for OSH, yes, you need to follow OSH Act. Because there may be some other legal requirement that you need to follow from other industry or other authorities, which you have to be familiar with lah. Okay, thank you.
I see. So depends on the business.
Yeah, depends on that. And different business, different regulatory body that will govern them.
So this ties in with the next question lah. For risk assessment, do we need to hire a third party?
That's the worst case scenario lah. In the worst case scenario, if you are blank, zero, don't know what to do, then you can have a subject matter expert externally to do for you. But I do recommend that you do internally and get involved your most. I see. Get involved your most senior person on the subject matter. Then that would be better, because outsider, we are not sure whether they are experienced enough in that particular process or activity. Your people are much more better in doing that lah.
I see.
But there's no harm for you to engage outsider. But
you don't have to. You are not required to engage third party kan?
No, not required to engage. But no harm if needed.
Yelah, but that one would be extra cost.
Yes.
Okay, this one. A company has about 250 local staff and 500 foreign worker. Will the company need to appoint a SHO or OSH coordinator?
Depend on the business. If your business is manufacturing, you have 500 worker and above, you need to have an SHO. By law, you need to have an SHO. But if you have 500 worker and you are not in the manufacturing setting, then SHO is not applicable to you. Unless later you get a visit from DOSH, then a directive from the DG requires you to have one. So either you go by the numbers now, or later if you get a visit. But if you're not a manufacturing, then having a safety officer is good to have lah. But again, I strongly suggest please refer to the order by the minister, SHO order by the minister, whether or not you are in the order or not. If your industry is in the order with certain amount numbers of worker, then which is 100 normally, then you need to have one SHO. So it's not a straight answer. You need to look at the details.
If the safety and health personnel pass the safety and health officer course and waiting for 3 years of experience to get the green book, can he or she become the OSH coordinator?
Okay. You already have an SHO. Why do you need an OSH coordinator? No need.
Okay. So redundant lah. Sama je lah.
Yeah. Though the person is not yet registered as a SHO, but his training, his competency is already SHO. So my suggestion is, you just register him as SHO, and then you don't need to have an OSH coordinator. But no harm if you want to have both. Well, go ahead lah, up to you.
Okay, this ni berkenaan dengan landlord. Is the landlord observing for a general duty of the employer? Do you understand that question? This one has got nothing
landlord,
to do with
what do you no, please define what is landlord. It's not easy to.
Yelah, this is the question that came out. Maybe we ignore that one.
Okay.
We ignore that one. We go to this one. I think this one you have answered also, tapi I think no harm in repeating. Salam, bolehkah safety committee diwujudkan mewakili semua anak syarikat di bawah group of company? Atau setiap syarikat mesti satu safety committee? Okay,
kena tubuhkan jawatan kuasa berdasarkan nombor kaki tangan, jumlah kaki tangan di setiap tempat. Kalau cawangan tersebut ada 40 orang, cawangan itu kena ada satu safety officer, safety committee. Tidak bolehlah nak ada satu safety committee untuk keseluruhan cawangan-cawangan di pelbagai tempat. Itu tidak mungkin.
Okay. I think we have almost come. Maybe we go for one last question.
Ada lagi, okay.
Is it a mandatory to have one safety and health officer in the company, or does it depend on the size of the company? So you dah jawab dah tadi. Depend on number of workers kan?
You better for the company to refer to the order by the minister. Dalam tu ada senarai-senarai syarikat yang perlu ada safety officer. It's not a straight answer. You have to refer to that order lah. Unless you give me the detail of the company, then I can answer.
Okay, you need more details to answer lah.
Okay.
Kita dah ada lagi 5 minit ni, okay lah.
Okay. Ada lagi soalan?
Can we assign production member to be OSH coordinator?
Boleh. Syarat dia warga negara Malaysia, berumur seperti saya sebut tadi lah, dan ada SPM. Boleh?
Meaning that the person is still doing production job, campur dengan safety punya job.
Boleh.
Boleh. Dia multitask tak apa. Dia tak payah
untuk OSH coordinator boleh. Tetapi mesti warga Malaysia lah. Tadi syaratnya mesti warga Malaysia, ada SPM kan, ada SPM dan satu lagi pengalaman kerja setahun. Then boleh enroll for the training lah.
Warga Nepal, Bangla semua tak boleh lah ya?
Tidak boleh. Unfortunately, for the time being lah.
Okay, Haji. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our free webinar. We thank you for logging in, and we hope to see you all online again. So there'll be I think we will continue this series in the future, and inshallah, I think there'll be other interesting topics to discuss for employers in particular. So on behalf of MEF, I thank you all. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.